Hi guys, welcome to week 13 of the course. Wow, it is the last full week of the course. How did that happen? Yeah, so this is the last full week. Next week is really kind of a wrap up and review kind of week, and then getting you ready for the final assignment, which I'll talk more about in this post. So, yeah, let's start just by commenting on last week, your assignment, your discussion assignments for last week. In general, they were just fantastic. I love assignments where you guys come up with your own kind of interest and topics. And I've had other years where, I kid you not, everyone did the same three countries in Europe. So at least this year, out of the 20 of you guys who did the discussion on time or a little bit late, Kelly, there were so out of 20 there were 12 different countries, which was great, and almost everybody drew parallels with Sargent, and a bunch of you guys did parallels with the U.S., which was really good. I hope you guys like the Sargent reading. By the way, she was my advisor, my doctoral dissertation. She was my main advisor. And as I was going off to Africa to a refugee camp, she was going off to Paris to study African immigrants. And I remember thinking, wow, that's how it works then, huh? So the students go off to the refugee camps, and then the faculty go off to Paris. Anyway, I thought it was a really good piece, and she herself was a great advisor. So hey, a lot of your all's discussion centers around, well, I'll start with Haley, at least on one side, what Haley writes about in Denmark, which is why shouldn't societies be allowed to say what kind of people they want? And as part of that, then these policies that Denmark or the Netherlands or Germany or France, these policies that they promote, which are assimilationist, in some ways they make sense, right? That societies should be allowed to say what people are like within themselves, right? So on the other hand, a bunch of you guys, Kelly, McKinnon, Marianne, Greg, Shad, Jill, and a couple others of you guys point out that practically speaking, an assimilationist kind of policy just doesn't work. Jill, great job for spelling out in France, what the three big fallacies are, and I'll enumerate them. Number one, not everybody can subscribe to a secular humanist view, and a bunch of you guys very legitimately pointed out how the hijab or the niqab is kind of the lightning rod for this, for demonstrating this, or the difficulties with this. Number two, you can't necessarily erase something like skin color. And then three, the process of assimilation kind of does institutionalize this conforming racism, right? And then Kathy, fantastic analogy where you point out that, it's not an analogy, just a great point, Kathy Price, where you point out that you can use language, or language can be used to express racism in so many words without actually seeming racist. So I think that was a really, really good point. What else? Stephanie, I really like your piece on LGBT discrimination around immigration in the Netherlands, how you can be not gay enough, which would be an amazing asylum interview to sit through, or to watch. Reminded me of the asylum movie that we watched earlier in the year. And interestingly, if you're interested in this, the Society of Gay and Lesbian Anthropologists, they have renamed themselves, or at least they have rebranded themselves now. You can find them on queeranthro.org. A really, really good and very active group. Like one of the things they've been really interested in is how there is this an expanding Western stereotype about what gay identity is that seems to be, well, it's expanding and it's sort of taking over LGBT in other parts of the world, LGBT people in other parts of the world. It's who may have had other ways of being gay, 15, 20 years ago. Anyway, Angel, really, really good piece about Roma gypsies, and really good parallels about the difficulties that immigrants face trying to be legal here. Okay, enough about that. I want you guys to start thinking about your research topics. These are going to be due Monday, May 8th, and I'm giving you guys huge amounts of leeway, I feel like, which is sometimes difficult, I know. Sometimes it's easier having a very tight, narrow thing that everybody has to do, but I didn't want to do that for this. I wanted you guys to have your own kind of some freedom here. So just some points or some hints. You should especially integrate, as you know by now, things we've read all year. I'd love it if you guys sent me at least a detailed topical outline by the end of next week, just so that I know that you're thinking ahead. Stephanie, you've already done that, so good job. And I think somebody else has too. Is it Jana? I can't remember. Coming up this week, the topic is refugee resettlement in the U.S. You guys notice that it's not just migrant, and hopefully you guys by now can take some issue with that. In that, as you should now know, it's kind of practically impossible to differentiate between a political refugee and an economic migrant. These distinctions, these kinds of differentiations are kind of arbitrary. So this week is focused on refugee resettlement in the U.S., and it's particularly around healthcare. This week's lesson was written by Dr. Marissa Abbey, who some of you guys might know as our graduate advisor. Marissa did her doctoral work in Dallas at an indigent healthcare clinic. The majority of the population was immigrant and refugee. Marissa was really interested in issues of cultural competency, particularly surrounding the communication between clinicians and their patients, which should not be surprising to you guys as a legitimate topic, especially if after reading the Fadiman book. What else? I could have just as easily assigned the God Grew Tired of Us film, because it was so good this week, but it was fine where we saw it during the Africa week. The assignment for this week. Hey, look at your syllabus. Originally I had it under a week 14 assignment, but I moved it into this week because I think it fits better. But I felt guilty about that, so I gave you guys a couple of extra days. So I hope this assignment's useful. I mostly wanted to parallel what we did way back in week 10, where I ask you, what would you do as an anthropologist? And if I can give some advice here, it's be really specific and detailed, all right? Don't just say things like, I would be interested to study their culture, or even, I'm interested in their education. Great, but just be more detailed, all right? You need to be really specific and detailed about what you would study and why, or how it would be important and how it would be practical and of benefit, okay? But again, be really specific about what it is and what kind of questions you would ask, all right? Lastly, some of you guys asked me this past week about your discussion grades and asked me what your discussion grades were. Two of you guys did. It's something that is so easy for you to calculate yourself. So go back and you guys can look at, calculate, well, how many discussions have I answered on time by usually Wednesday midnight? How many have I done? How many have I turned in on time, and have I also done the 2 posts on time by that Saturday? And if you've done that for all of them, your discussion grade's an A, an easy A. If you've done it for 80 to 89% of them, then your discussion grade's going to be a B. If you did it for 70 to 79%, your discussion grade's a C. So, and on down. So hopefully that makes sense. You guys let me know. All right? Hope you guys have a great week. Let me know if I can answer anything else. Feel free, always by email. Let me know if I can answer anything, all right? Take care. Bye.